Welcome to our channel. In this video, we dive into the top 10 countries supporting India against Pakistan in 2025, amid rising tensions following the Pahalgam attack. From strategic allies like the United States and Israel to emerging partners like the UAE and Afghanistan, we explore the diplomatic, military, and economic ties shaping global alignments. Join us to uncover how these nations bolster India's stance in this critical geopolitical rivalry. 10. Russia. Russia's long-standing defense ties with India, including arms supplies like S-400 systems, make it a potential supporter against Pakistan in 2025, though its stance is nuanced. Post-Pahalgam, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov offered mediation, reflecting Russia's diplomatic balancing act. Historically, Russia backed India during the 1971 war and continues to supply 60% of India's military hardware, fostering deep trust. However, Russia's growing ties with Pakistan and China complicate its position, as does its call for de-escalation to avoid nuclear risks. Support would likely include arms supplies and diplomatic backing in forums like the UN, though tempered by Russia's regional interests. Posts on X emphasize Russia's historical loyalty to India, with analysts like Sushant Sareen noting its strategic tilt. Russia's economic stakes in India's defense market reinforce this alignment, but its mediation efforts suggest caution to maintain influence over both nations. 9. Afghanistan. Afghanistan's alignment with India in 2025, driven by India's investments and tensions between the Taliban and Pakistan, positions it as a supporter against Pakistan. India has funded Afghan infrastructure, hospitals, and education, earning goodwill, while Pakistan faces border disputes and terrorism accusations from the Taliban. Post-Pahalgam, the Taliban's condemnation of the attack aligns with India's narrative, suggesting diplomatic support. Afghanistan's strategic position allows potential intelligence cooperation, particularly on cross-border terrorism. India's training of Afghan security forces in the past strengthens this bond. Economically, India's aid contrasts with Pakistan's strained ties with Kabul. Posts on X highlight Afghanistan's tilt toward India, driven by mutual distrust of Pakistan. However, Afghanistan's internal instability and Taliban governance limit its capacity for robust support, likely confining it to regional intelligence and diplomatic backing. The Taliban's anti-Pakistan stance makes this alignment tactically significant for India. 8. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's warming ties with India, driven by counterterrorism and economic interests, make it a potential supporter against Pakistan in 2025. Historically a Pakistan ally, Saudi Arabia has recalibrated its stance, condemning the Pahalgam attack and engaging in high-level talks with India. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's condemnation reflects shared concerns over terrorism, with past cooperation in extraditing suspects to India. Economically, Saudi Arabia relies on India as a major oil market, while India benefits from Saudi investments. Strategically, Saudi Arabia's rivalry with Iran, a Pakistan supporter, aligns it closer to India. Support would likely be diplomatic, with potential intelligence sharing, though Saudi Arabia would avoid military involvement to maintain regional balance. Posts on X note this shift, emphasizing Saudi Arabia's condemnation of terrorism and economic stakes in India. However, Saudi Arabia's historical ties with Pakistan may temper its support, prioritizing de-escalation. 7. United Arab Emirates, UAE. The UAE's evolving relationship with India, marked by economic and counter-terrorism cooperation, positions it as a supporter against Pakistan in 2025. Historically closer to Pakistan, the UAE has shifted toward India due to massive trade ties, Indian expatriate contributions, and shared concerns over terrorism. Post-Pahalgam, the UAE condemned the attack, with high-level visits like that of Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed reinforcing diplomatic support. The UAE's assistance in arresting terror suspects for India in the past sets a precedent for intelligence cooperation. Economically, India is a key market for UAE oil and investments, while the UAE hosts millions of Indian workers. This shift strains UAE-Pakistan ties, as Pakistan's alignment with Turkey and Iran diverges from UAE interests. Posts on X highlight the UAE's growing alignment with India, suggesting diplomatic and economic backing, though direct military support is unlikely. 6. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom's support for India against Pakistan in 2025 stems from shared counter-terrorism goals and historical ties, though tempered by calls for de-escalation. Post-Pahalgam, UK Trade Secretary Jonathan Reynolds expressed readiness to support dialogue, signaling diplomatic backing for India's position. The UK's strategic partnership with India includes defence cooperation, intelligence sharing, and economic ties, with India as a key market for British exports. Historically, the UK maintained balanced ties with both nations, but Pakistan's terrorism links have shifted favour toward India. The UK's role in the Commonwealth and UN provides platforms to amplify India's narrative. Support would likely involve diplomatic pressure on Pakistan and intelligence cooperation, though military involvement is unlikely. Posts on X list the UK among India's allies, reflecting its condemnation of terrorism and alignment with India's democratic values. However, the UK's push for peace reflects caution over nuclear risks. 5. Australia. Australia's growing strategic alignment with India, primarily through the Quad, positions it as a supporter against Pakistan in 2025. Sharing concerns over terrorism and China's influence, Australia condemned the Pahalgam attack, aligning with India's security narrative. Bilateral ties have deepened through defense agreements, joint naval exercises, and intelligence sharing under frameworks like AUKUS and the Quad. Australia's support would likely be diplomatic and economic, with potential for intelligence cooperation, given its advanced surveillance capabilities. Historically, Australia has leaned toward India in South Asian disputes, viewing it as a democratic counterweight to authoritarian regimes. Economically, Australia benefits from India's market for resources like coal and uranium, while India gains strategic leverage in the Indo-Pacific. Posts on X highlight Australia's role in India's security architecture, though its involvement would avoid direct military engagement, focusing instead on strengthening India's diplomatic stance and regional influence. 4. Japan. Japan's alignment with India, driven by shared membership in the Quad and concerns over China's regional dominance, makes it a likely supporter against Pakistan in 2025. While Japan's pacifist constitution limits military involvement, its diplomatic and economic support for India is significant. Post-Pahalgam, Japan likely condemned the attack, aligning with India's counter-terrorism stance, as seen in its historical support during India's tensions with Pakistan. Strategic partnerships, including joint military exercises and infrastructure investments, underscore Japan's commitment. Economically, Japan benefits from India's market, while India gains access to Japanese technology and funding. Intelligence sharing through Quad frameworks further bolsters cooperation. Japan's strained ties with Pakistan, due to the latter's proximity to China, tilt its favor toward India. Posts on X note Japan's role in India's Indo-Pacific strategy, though its support would remain non-military, focusing on diplomatic solidarity and economic aid to strengthen India's regional position. 3. France. France's strategic partnership with India, rooted in defense and counter-terrorism cooperation, positions it as a key supporter against Pakistan in 2025. France supplies India with Rafale jets, Scorpion submarines, and missile systems, cementing a multi-billion-dollar defense relationship. Following the Pahalgam attack, President Emmanuel Macron engaged with Indian leaders, signaling potential military and diplomatic support. France's condemnation of terrorism aligns with India's narrative, and its role in the UN Security Council amplifies India's position globally. The 1998 nuclear tests saw France adopt a lenient stance toward India, unlike its criticism of Pakistan, setting a precedent. Economically, France benefits from India's defense contracts, while strategically, it seeks India's partnership in the Indo-Pacific to counter China. Support would likely include arms supplies and diplomatic backing, though France would push for de-escalation to protect regional stability. Posts on X highlight France's reliability as an ally in India's security framework. 2. Israel. Israel's robust defense and intelligence partnership with India makes it a staunch supporter against Pakistan in 2025. The two nations share a history of military cooperation, with Israel supplying drones, missile defense systems, and night vision gear during conflicts like the 1999 Kargil War. Indian security expert Sushant Sareen highlights Israel's reliability, given Pakistan's lack of diplomatic ties with Israel and its alignment with adversarial states like Iran. Post-Pahalgam, Israel likely offered technical and intelligence support, leveraging its expertise in counterterrorism. This aligns with shared concerns over Islamist militancy, as both nations face threats from non-state actors. Economically, Israel benefits from India's growing defense market, while India gains access to cutting-edge technology. Diplomatic support is evident in Israel's silence on Pakistan's narratives, contrasting with its vocal backing of India. Posts on X emphasize this all-weather alliance, though Israel's involvement would likely remain covert to avoid regional backlash. 1. United States. The United States has emerged as a key supporter of India against Pakistan, driven by strategic interests in countering China and fostering Indo-Pacific stability. In 2025, following the Pahalgam attack, President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance condemned the attack, reaffirming U.S. support for India's counter-terrorism efforts while urging restraint to avoid escalation. The U.S. India partnership, strengthened through the Quad and defense agreements like COMCASA, includes significant arms sales, such as drones and missile systems, positioning India as a critical ally. Historically, the U.S. balanced ties with Pakistan, but its pivot toward India reflects Pakistan's declining strategic relevance and concerns over terrorism. Support manifests through military cooperation, intelligence sharing, and diplomatic backing in forums like the UN. However, U.S. calls for de-escalation highlight its wariness of nuclear risks. Posts on X underscore this shift, noting America's preference for India in regional power dynamics.